in 95 days, and we're going to burn the midnight oil. I see that. I'm going to plug in my phone. It's been so busy. Um, we've had a lot of institutional support today. Let me see. One, two, three. Three letters today with lots of good information. Um, 1,100. Can you believe it? It took this many days. 1,195 days since Richard's um, since the code red was escalated into his murder. Okay, and I think it's more days. I think it's more days, and so I'm gonna have to go and check. I just loaded up a TikTok that I think is really important. If you want to share that, that would be wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Today, I want to speak so much again about the addresses at 3905 Bliss Avenue, 3705 Bliss Avenue, and Van Buren Avenue. These houses connect so many people in this case. And let me make sure I'm on. Everything's working. It looks like I'm live. Okay. Okay, so here we are, 1,195 days still investigating our son's disappearance. That we absolutely, well, I say code red, but that's Lalani Hart's assessment. Her assessment and witness of Richard's situation is a code red. And yes, I understand she's a convicted criminal. I understand that she lies, that she's a big liar, but she's also a manipulator, that she's also a harasser. But uh, she also had access to Richard's file. She had access to her boyfriend, the special agent Tavita Nusa in the Fort Bliss CID. She was getting support from the dirty agent Marlon Soto. She was getting support from the dirty DES and um, Chief of Security of Fort Bliss, Thomas Kane. She, uh, she knows people, and she was getting support by a defense attorney, Felix Valenzuela. Okay? Felix Valenzuela, that's not just some little AUSA member there in Fort Bliss, but holds very important roles in very important cases. And she was getting support from Felix Valenzuela, and she was getting support from Bob Moore's El Paso Matters, and Lalani Hart was getting support from Angela Kachurga of KTEP, right? And, it's just like Danae Katzen getting support from Natasha Paloma of KTSM and being involved with 3705. Tanya Katzen is the mother of Danae Katzen, 3705 Bliss Avenue. 3905 Bliss Avenue, 37, they're all connected with both of them. 3905 Bliss Avenue, Tanya Katzen, 3705 Bliss Avenue, which are also connected to Valenzuela. Okay? They're connected to Valenzuela, those addresses. And of course, Corinne Adeline West is connected to Valenzuela. That's how we found him, who is connected to her daughter, Deborah Sarah West, who was teaching Dallas Hart, Lalani Hart's son, and Richard's first lieutenant platoon leader how to fly planes. Why? What are they transporting in these planes? Is it the weapons smuggling? Is it the child sex trafficking? Is it the narcotics trafficking? Is it, am I allowed to suspect that they're using these planes to transport and to even transport remains, right? Am I allowed to suspect that in this investigation, which the ATF were involved in the 15 plus staged? Why would the ATF come to a staged and participate in a stage task force find Richard Halliday on Fort Bliss? Why would they do it? Because the ATF don't just do things like that. I'm getting an education in these 3 years. People just don't stand still in 3 years, especially when you have a missing son. Then we research things and we get an education. The ATF just doesn't show up, and you don't hold a task force find Richard Halliday without an op board like they did. So it was staged. It had no bite. It was for the purpose of a dog and pony show to the family. And so why did they withhold the information of Leilani Hart? Why did they withhold the information from us at that meeting in front of everybody? 15 plus agencies, including ATF, which is alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives. Why did they withhold? This is a very important agency, very serious agency, we have learned, and also Homeland Security and the FBI there, and the U.S. Marshals, and the El Paso Police, and the Mexican military, the Mexican government, the Department of State, the DES. 15 plus agencies are there at this staged meeting, and they're withholding Leilani Hart's participation in our son's case. Tavita Newsa's participation in our son's case. Richard's unit chain of command participation in our son's case, which never came. They didn't make the first sergeant come in there. They didn't make Captain Yoshida or Captain Park come. They didn't make Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick come. They didn't make Colonel Dauber come. They didn't make at the time of Richard's disappearance, the office of the commanding general, General White, come in there. They did not make Major General Clem Coward come, and they should have all been there because Richard was the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. Very serious allegations, and they withheld information about key suspects being First Lieutenant Platoon Leader Dallas Hart. He wasn't there. He should have been there. And Leilani Hart and all the rest, right? They should have been there. And they withheld the information about something very serious, the 3705 Bliss Avenue and 3905 Bliss Avenue. They withheld the information that they found Richard's remains. They found Richard's remains, and they found the murder weapon. They had, this is seemingly they found, this is why these addresses are so important, right? And why did Judge Robert Shook order a seal on the case? Why did, and this is the information coming in, that Judge Penny Hamilton ordered a gag order. Why is that? She's the civilian part. He's the military, Colonel Shook. And why didn't they tell us about these addresses: 3905 Bliss Avenue, 3705 Bliss Avenue, 3400 Van Buren, and another house, very important on Van Buren, and that they connected to Boleyn Rocha's family, that they connected to Felix Valenzuela, that they connected to uh, Tanya Katzen, who's the mother of Danae Katzen, and the Rochas, and the Ortegas, this family. And why didn't they tell us that they had found Richard's remains? Right? Why didn't they? That all this stuff was going on behind the scenes. Why didn't they tell us who they were arresting? Right? Because of Richard's whistleblowing. Why didn't they tell us? And, they cannot say that they were forthright with us, because we have proof from our alliance within Fort Bliss, also by institutional help, that have now confirmed that Marlon Soto, the CID agent in charge of our son's case, that appointed us, the investigators of our son's case, along with the office of the commanding general of Fort Bliss, that he was a dirty agent, and he has botched this case on purpose, interfered, sabotaged, call it what you want. He did whatever he could to derail this case. And every case that he has presided over or participated in need to be looked at. And so if you are a family that your loved one had a case on Fort Bliss that was touched and investigated anyway by Marlon Soto, he is proven now a dirty agent, and you can have a reinvestigation into your loved one's case now. I think that's very, very important for everyone to know, and that information to be shared, that Marlon Soto has been confirmed a dirty agent. And so any case, not just our son's case, of course our son's case needs to be reinvestigated because of all the irregularities, the case is botched, right? The case is botched. And another thing that, and I went over this last night, all of these connections, and I don't believe that Boleyn Rocha was acting on her own through this whole thing at all. I've seen enough videos of her. I've talked to her a couple times, 3 times, I think 3 times I've talked to her. I don't know, maybe it's twice. But enough to know, and also the very long interview she had with the I would say that we've proved him to be a dirty PI. That long interview with the dirty PI that she let in her house. I don't know if I would have let him and his partner in my house when you're alone with children. I just wouldn't have done it. He's a dirty PI. But she did. And, maybe she knew he was coming, because I do not think that she acted alone in any of this. Okay. I think she was directed all the way, groomed all the way. Call it what you want. You can call it groomed, because there's a sex cult involved in this that have absolutely no morality at all. They're just all sleeping around, whatever, doing whatever they want, with no regards to the future, society, children, nothing. With all this child porn they even create and try to sell, and all the crimes that they're committing. It's absolutely, we have the tail number of the plane and um, who that connects to. And, they're not Girl Scouts, okay? They're not Boy Scouts. They're not, well, maybe they are some Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts in that group. Um, but they are wolves in sheep's clothing, okay? That's what they are. They're wolves in sheep's clothing. And they're up to no good. They're absolutely up to no good. And I will say this too, and I know it's so late coming on, but we have to burn the midnight oil because this is so, so important. And I'm putting together a post about this, about the TikTok that I just finished up and added on. And that is that Richard's set up DUI that Boleyn orchestrated. She orchestrated. I think she didn't orchestrate. I think she was an actor in it. I think she was an actor and someone else orchestrated and was the conductor and she was one of the players, okay? There was some other conductor, she was one of the players and she called Richard and she wanted a ride to this right across the street from and this is after he was whistleblowing. She gave a testimony of that they were already in very hard feelings, and this was her kind of reaching out to him to use him, um, to use his good nature for bad purposes, and the bad purpose was to set him up. She used him to get a ride to this party in a parking lot, and she set him up. That's and I think she was a player. I don't think she was the conductor. I think there were other people conducting because who called this canine cop to come to the parking lot in front of that FBI building, right? They had to have, they had to be unafraid to go and do this kind of setup in front of the FBI building, which is many law enforcement agencies are in this building. And so he stopped Richard without recording. Okay. So that means, what did he do? When you turn on the lights of a police vehicle, the recording automatically starts. So where is the recording? Because there is no recording, right? And if there was a recording, they would have showed it to us. But there's no recording, okay? There's no evidence. There was no six-pack. There was no open container. Richard refused to participate in this setup. He maintained his innocence over and over again. He maintained his innocence. And we talked to the bond agent. He maintained his innocence. And the bond agent was like, oh my gosh, he's so sweet. He was so sweet. He did everything you asked him to do without complaint. Who does that sound like? That was the testimony of Jay Paulin, right? Richard's first sergeant. Richard did everything you asked him to do without complaint. He's sweet. He's so nice. He is a distinguished honor graduate. And people that he went to basic training with said the same thing over and over again, how he just was on top. He was the top soldier, and he was so kind, and he was so nice, and he was so sweet. And Boleyn Rocha took advantage of him. She set him up. She agreed to go along with the conductor that is involved in crime, in organized crime, the conductor, the man behind or the woman behind the curtain that is involved in child pornography, that is involved in weapon smuggling, ammunition smuggling, even grenade smuggling. And even though she knows that Dallas Hart is up to no good, and there's a lot of questions about Dallas Hart and his past, right? Because we're getting reports that not only does he have a questionable criminal past, but a questionable mental health past. Okay, past, past. That there's something going on there. There's something going on both fronts, and that's the information that we're getting from our alliance from Fort Bliss and from El Paso and from Las Cruces where he attended school, which is, the what is it, New Mexico State University, the Aggies, the New Mexico State University Aggies, right? So there's information that he has a very questionable past. We're in the process of putting all that together. But he has protection. And I don't know if Felix Valenzuela is the one that is protecting him because he is a defense attorney that is connected with Leilani Hart, that is connected with Bob Moore. Well, let's just say about the being the conductor, being involved with the KTEP Angela Kacherga hit job that interfered in our son's case and with a key witness in our son's case. Why would anyone do that? Why would anyone do that? That is so destructive of our military. That is so destructive of Fort Bliss. That's so destructive of El Paso and the outlining areas and even overspilling into Juarez. What KTEP did with Angela Kacherga, with Bob Moore at El Paso Matters, with this help of Felix Valenzuela and Leilani Hart and David Poche, is just, it's so criminal. It's so criminal against every service member on Fort Bliss, against the esprit de corps on Fort Bliss, against our military, which then would be against the United States, against El Paso, and overspilling into the surrounding area into Mexico. I mean, this is how criminal that is. It's not just isolated about Richard, okay? Because in order to carry something like this out against Richard, to retaliate against a whistleblower, in the extreme amount that they did against Richard, this and to bring in the ATF, this absolutely, we're connecting the dots because the ATF was at the meeting. And the way they acted and the way they withheld information, even when we said there was leaks. There was leaks. They didn't say, oh, yeah, well, that's Leilani Hart. She had access to your son's case. They didn't say that. They withheld that information. And they withheld the information of 3905 Bliss Avenue. Okay. And they withheld the information of 3705 Bliss Avenue. And they withheld the information of Van Buren houses, Avenue houses in El Paso. So, and they withheld that this DUI was a setup, was another retaliation against a whistleblower to try to discredit him in the court of law by giving him a DUI. This is very, very clear. And it was so botched, okay, because, and Richard, with his moral backbone, was not going to bend. He was not going to bend. He refused to deal with this, okay? And, or to accept what they were trying to do. And he said no, he maintained his innocence throughout, and voila, it worked because the judge in El Paso, downtown El Paso, the judge on the case said, there's no evidence here. There is no evidence, and there's not even, where is the video? Where's the video? And this case needs to be dismissed. And we're making an agreement today, July 9th, 2020. July 9th, 2020. Just a few days before they murdered Richard. Okay? And what people need to understand is between January 27th, 2020, when Boleyn caved, sold Richard out. She sold him out. Here he was, the one person that actually respected her, as a mother, that actually respected her as a woman with potentiality, right? He actually wanted her to be respected in life and have a nice life, right? Tried to stop whatever he was reporting that was happening to her children, right? To her child at the time. She only had one at the time, then she got pregnant. And he even, she even said, and we were told by the dirty agent Soto, that Richard proposed marriage to her. He was the one person that was trying to look after her well-being truly. Probably the first one in her whole life. And that's why she said to him, "You're so weird. You mean you don't want to just be horny and see me naked? You mean you don't want to use me and abuse me? You don't want me to sell my body? You want me to be respected? Wow, you're so weird." So the one person that cared about her, she sold him out. She worked with the conductor to set him up on January 27th, 2020. And the judge, then what happened is, this was a conductor, because right after that, the retaliation started happening. The Major General Clem Coward, so that he was involved in this. Was he involved with Boleyn Rocha? I just have this weird, for a long time now, I have to tell you, for a long time, because, I've been asking, who's this daddy of her second baby? Who's the daddy? I've asked that so many people. And, here she is being conducted, being a player, selling Richard out. And right after that, who's the first person to act? Major General Clem Coward against Richard. And it just makes me wonder, were those two working as a team against Richard? And who else? I don't know. It just seems to be, if I was Inspector General, if I was the FBI, if I was the CID, I would be looking into Major General Clem Coward and Boleyn Rocha's relationship. Right? That's just something I would look into. And, I'm trying to look into it, but he's a major general. He was the command general of 32nd ADCOM, Richard's general. And Richard is blowing the whistle. And, you can think what you want. What was it about? I don't know. I have my guesses. I know it was about children. I know that the ATF was involved, and we have these arrest reports that are very interesting about smuggling ammunition. smuggling weapons, smuggling even grenades, equipment, and these tactical move storage units, right? This really great connection that, was Fort Bliss a conducting a weapons smuggling enterprise? Were they? I mean, am I crazy to ask that? It's happened before. And where are our weapons? Where is the equipment? You hear all the time, oh, we don't have enough. We need more money. $33 trillion. We should have gold plated weapons and equipment, right? $33 trillion would easily, um, if you've traveled around the world in the past, they gold plated everything because, gold is just such such a malleable uh, metal that you can hammer it so thin that you can make a window. It can be translucent, right? It can be translucent, I think is the right word, of gold, because you can hammer it so thin without it cracking or anything. It's just an amazing metal. For 33 trillion, our weapons can be made out of, or at least leafed in gold. I mean, come on. I mean, what do we, are we so low that we don't want anything? That we just want the base of everything? Is that how low we are? We want the base of music, the base of housing, the base of food, just eat bugs, just live in whatever, just a hut or whatever. Are we that base? That's my question, because let me tell you, these people behind the curtain, they don't live base. They want they want their mansions. They want their gold plated everything. They want their faucets out of gold, right? So they can get the health benefits from that. Um, you know, anyway, so I lost track of what I was trying to say, but yeah, I just want to know if they're conducting some kind of criminal cabal, some kind of criminal enterprise, some kind of weapon smuggling enterprise right there from Fort Bliss, because nothing makes sense except for that, because of at that meeting. I just can't get over that meeting, and I can't get over the betrayal of Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe with this DUI, because right after the setup at the parking lot in front of the FBI place, right across from Buffalo Soldier Gate, by the betrayal of Belen Rocha, I mean, I just can't. Can you imagine? She just sold him out and lied. What a con, you know? Um, yeah. Anyway, so she sold him out to this person that wants her to ruin her youth on horny guys, right? And some kind of cult women, these cult women. I don't know what they are, but Richard was telling her, they don't respect you. They say they do, but they really don't. They think of you bad. And the guys, they're just horny. They just want to see you naked. Okay, so that was very clear that he understood what was going on. And so she sold him out for that. For that. For the horny guys that want to see her naked. Um, and, which it's just like, wow. Wow. And what that started was the retaliation by Major General Clem Coward. Okay? By Major General Clem Coward. A Gomar. A Gomar for this setup DUI. with no evidence. No evidence. None. Zippo. Zero. There was no video. So Richard maintained his innocence, but that did not matter to Major General Clem Coward. He made the GOMAR permanent, which is, you're done. I'm going to cook you on a spit. That's what kind of move that is. And we were like, why did they do that? I don't understand. I don't understand why, they have a recruitment problem. They have a distinguished honor graduate right here. And they're just trying to put them on a spit and cook them. I don't understand that, because what that did when you get a permanent GOMAR is it starts at chapter 14. And my husband, really pinned the SJA about this dating of the chapter 14, and it was clear. It was clear. The red flags were all over this, that they were hiding information, that they were withholding information from us. Okay? Taking advantage of our good nature, right? Taking advantage of our good nature, of our respectful nature, and, withholding information from us. And we didn't realize how big the information was. Like, oh yeah, July 9th, that case got dismissed because there was no evidence. It was a setup. Oh, it got dismissed by the judge downtown El Paso. The judge dismissed Richard's case because there was no evidence. July 9th, 2020. What is today? Today is November 25th, 2020. But we don't want to tell you that. We don't want to tell you that. No, they didn't tell us. What they did is they said, we take underage drinking seriously. Remember that? Remember, I repeated that over and over and over again. What is their problem? They keep telling me that they take underage drinking seriously, and this is a soup sandwich. This is really weird. Well, it was even weirder, because on July 9th, 2020, months before, days before Richard was murdered, the judge had dismissed the case, had made that agreement to dismiss the case because there was no evidence. Because she maintained, or he, I don't know, that Richard was innocent, and Richard maintained his innocence. This is really big. And they did not tell us. Matter of fact, it's not that they kept it a hush. They didn't keep it a shh. What they did is they ignored it and maintained the DUI and used it to smear Richard to the Stars and Stripes, to smear Richard with the media through PAO, dirty PAO, Lieutenant Colonel Allie Payne. Okay? Speaking for, and she's only dirty because the office of the command general is dirty. On Fort Bliss, it's dirty. And they use that to smear Richard way after, months after they knew that there was no evidence and the judge had deemed him innocent, and there was no charges, and it would be dismissed. How rotten are these people? No esprit de corps. They didn't have Richard Six. They have no idea what the Purple Heart is about. They have no idea what the Medal of Honor is. They have no idea what the Medal of Honor ethos is, what the Purple Heart ethos is. their duty. They don't even know their duty. They don't know what honor is or integrity. They kept this from the public about Richard. Matter of fact, they kept it they kept it in order that they could continue to retaliate against him. It wasn't enough that they gave that Major General Clem Coward gave him the Gomar and made it permanent, and they started at chapter 14, and that Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick gave him a field grade Article 15 with maximum punishment. I mean, stripping him of 3 ranks, 50% of his pay, 45 days of extra duty with extra punishment, which is illegal to do. Even Sean Bernabe, the dirty lieutenant general that needs to get out of our uniform, out of those stars, needs to be stripped from every benefit. Yeah, I have no kind words for that man at all. He's so dirty because he was the office of the commanding general that kept that information from us and said that Richard could get 6 years in prison if he would have gone uh, court martial. If he would have gone court martial. And I said, or was it my husband? Well, we said, is that what you said to him? Did you intimidate our son? Wow. You guys are really rotten. You guys are really rotten. Rotten to the core. And that was my thoughts. How rotten these people were. Something stinky. I said, something stinky like dead fish. It just stinks like high heaven. And there were red flags everywhere. Everywhere. And so that's what they said. Instead of saying, your son maintained his innocence, and the judge was right there, right there, and dismissed the case. Yeah, but no. They did the 45 days of extra duty. Well, it was a little overreach. No, it was abuse of power and retaliation, more retaliation against a whistleblower for what I believe is weapons smuggling criminal enterprise from Fort Bliss. And including the children. Don't forget about that, because that is, CPS complaints. Come on. Sex videos. Come on. First Lieutenant Dallas Hart running to his mom's looking for the child porn. Got to hide it in the desert. But things pop up in the desert too. But yeah. Not that I don't know if he hid it in the desert. I'm just, I am just on here telling you that they retaliated against Richard, and they covered it up, and they continued to retaliate against him with this smear campaign and withholding information, and they continue to retaliate against Richard by obstructing justice and intimidating key witnesses and denying us due process in our son's case, which includes 3905 Bliss Avenue, which includes 3705 Bliss Avenue, which includes Felix Valenzuela, which includes Danae Katzen and Lalani Hart, and Lalani Hart, and Lalani Hart, who seems to have her fingers in all of it. And she was ordered by a judge for mental evaluation in 1998, and is a convicted criminal. And her criminal complaint affidavit that was notarized, and we talked to the notary, she's not really well liked. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that she's not well liked. She's a convicted criminal and a harasser. And she brings chaos wherever she goes. And why are they protecting her? Is she like the mastermind behind getting everyone together, or the sex cult to make sure that no one can speak up or whatever. I don't know. I do not know. I do not know. Um, because she has her hands in Park University, she has her hands in with the DES, she has her hands in with the CID, she has her hands in with Felix Valenzuela, she has her hands in with KTEP and El Paso Matters, and she has her hands in the VA, and she has her hands, um, does she have it in with the CPS? Was she with the CYS with Ann Ogle and the Emergency Intake Center? All these young, unaccounted for minors, unaccounted 85,000 unaccounted for minors. Where are they? So that's a whole nother, you know, come on. The office of the commanding general of Fort Bliss cannot be that bad unless he's bad on purpose, unless he chooses to be bad, because he's given every tool to make Fort Bliss honorable, with integrity, strong, with the Medal of Honor ethos, with esprit de corps, with the to teach and train, so that our young people there that volunteer sons and daughters, will have the Purple Heart ethos as well, the Medal of Honor ethos as well, leave no soldier behind ethos. But you know what? The office of the commanding general on Fort Bliss, they choose not to. So which HRC, is assigning these criminals, wolves in sheep's clothing, and they're wonderful clothing. Our uniforms are beautiful. They're expensive and they're beautiful, and our stars are expensive and beautiful, and we give them everything, every privilege, a good pay, a good retirement, good job opportunities afterwards, right? All travel expenses. We give them drivers, we give them housing, right? They have it all. And they have absolutely, on Fort Bliss, used that to support a criminal enterprise. And I guess Richard, he didn't like that too much, and he didn't want to participate in it. And he blew the whistle, because they say, if you see something, say something. And oh yeah, Leilani Hart had her hand in the JAG office right there, where Judge Robert Shook was giving out those probable cause and warrants for what? In Richard's case, we would like to know, was it open records? Where is it? Where is the open records? Right? So, and other people are starting to ask that question, and that's why we're getting the institutional support. That's why we're getting all these letters now. And yeah, so there's a lot of inquiries going on, a lot of investigations going on. And, we need that congressional inquiry. That's very important. That's moving forward. So let's pray that that continues to move forward, because there's people that want to sabotage, that want to set a roadblock, that want to set up, that have no loyalty. They have no loyalty. They're like Berlin Rocha. They have no loyalty to something that's good. They want to side with the criminal group, right? That have, that would sell her out in a minute. And they did. They put her in the front line. They put her in the front line. The same thing with Danae. The conductors put them out in the front line. And just like, the people that sign these documents, they get these and I don't mean that as a bad thing, but they get other people that's under them to sign the document, so that if it goes astray, they can sell them out. That's because they have no integrity. They have no honor. And the only, so they have to be driven to do the right thing. And that takes time. And here we are 3 years later, and we have 3905 Bliss Avenue now. We have 3705 Bliss Avenue now. We have Felix Valenzuela's name connected to this, and he's connected to a huge case, right? Very expensive case, like Richard's. Richard's case is a very expensive case. They've spent millions of dollars to cover this up. And the only reason why they would do that is if they were covering up a criminal enterprise that Fort Bliss was engaged in. You know, all a business plan. Sweet, sweet money, easy money, but criminal. Absolutely criminal. There are 3 ways to become rich. You either earn it, or you inherit it, or you steal it. Okay? Richard knew that. He chose not to steal it. He wanted to earn his way, right? That was the excuse he gave for joining the military. Mom, I don't want you to pay for college. I want to earn my way. And that's why we know that he was taking classes. Okay? And I want to let you know, I am still waiting for the answer to the exception to the FERPA. We're still waiting for that for Park University. And we did get communication from University of Texas of El Paso, right? We got communication from them. We got communication today from Washington, D.C., which was really great news to get that kind of communication from Washington, D.C., because they're the ones that are getting sick of this. And, also communication with the AG of Texas has been crucial in getting information. Crucial in driving those that need to do their duty to do their duty. So that is very important. Of course, local institutions and agencies, that's also very important. But to withhold important evidence, information like July 9th, 2020, and to continue to retaliate against the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier, continue to use that even against the family of the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier, whistleblower, distinguished honor graduate, is just unconscionable. It's so bad, and it's a crime against every American. Every American. And, to use that as a smear tactic against Richard when it wasn't even there. They're so good at fabricating excuses for their abuse of power, for their cover-up of their criminal enterprise. And that's exactly, in my opinion, exactly what has happened here. And I think that is, really important institutional help that we got that information and could understand it, and could understand it, what was going on with Richard's case. That is, yeah. So, okay, if you have any questions, I know it's super late tonight, but we have to burn the midnight oil. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on, and we really, really appreciate it. And yes, I did say that evidence, we're getting information that evidence was found at these Bliss homes, okay, that are in regards to Richard's case. That the Bliss homes evidence was found, and that is one reason why I'm coming in late, because of the communication with the the details of all of that. And, I'm not allowed to get emotional. I'm not allowed to, because this is so important going forward. And when I cooperate with, Rob and the team and information that we have about the information I got um, about 3905 Bliss Avenue and 3705 Bliss Avenue, then I will share it with you. But we are being told, I can, evidence, very important evidence in Richard's case. So thank you. Thanks to God, prayers for continued answers and justice for Richard and your family. Thank you so much, Anicia. It's, I can tell you, it has been so difficult, and I will tell you this, the most difficult thing that has happened through this whole thing, besides Richard being missing the first day when we called, is Angela Kachurga's phone call and her actions. That was, I cannot tell you how much pain that has caused. Because you would think that Angela Kachurga, who's so loved in Mexico, who is an award-winning journalist that gets paid for by the taxpayers, the public pays her. KTEP, KTEP is like PBS, right? It is publicly funded. That she would care. That she would not conspire, be a co-conspirator with Leilani Hart, with, it looks like to me, Felix Valenzuela, right, and others, to work against and sabotage the Vanessa Guillen First Absence soldier. Any soldier, any service member on Fort Bliss, and hurt El Paso, hurt Fort Bliss, hurt El Paso, and hurt the surrounding area leading into Mexico, and even Mexico, by her actions. That was bad. That was really, really bad. Because, what are her connections now? So you're telling me that the criminal enterprise that is being covered up on Fort Bliss also includes the civilian world there in El Paso? Yeah, that's, that's why I guess they can get away with it, But I don't think they're going to get away with it forever. And I hope that we have stopped a lot of it just by shining a light on it. That they are nervous and they are, pulling back. We hope that we have injured their criminal enterprise. Okay? 85,000 unaccounted for minors and child pornography and the hurt and pain to so many of our service members. Yeah, I hope that we have put them on their toes. Absolutely. I really do. And Leilani Hart. Remember Leilani Hart. She's like, all roads lead to Leilani Hart. Wherever she goes, she just learned since 1998, 1990s, to cause even greater chaos wherever she goes. And, it looks like Angela Kachurga buddied up with her. It looks like Danae Katzen buddied up with her. It looks like Felix Valenzuela buddied up with her. And it looks like Belen Rocha buddied up with them. And of course, she's, defending her son, First Lieutenant Dallas Hart, who, he had no choice because that's his mother. And if all of these this information coming in that he has some mental health issues, no wonder he's probably been tortured. I don't want to make excuses for him, but oh my gosh, something's not right. But we'll see. That needs to be verified. And Dallas, if you're listening, you can, debunk that, verify it. However, you have all the means. You have all the means to do it. Just call Felix Valenzuela. Yeah. So don't forget to pass on the information that things were not good in the backyard of 3905 Bliss Avenue, in the house of 3905 Bliss Avenue, and the same thing for 37. Well, 3705 doesn't really have a backyard, but 3705, what was going on there, what they used that address for, it's up to no good. And that's why it's so hidden. Try looking it up. You're going to have a hard time, but it's there. It's there. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow.